Hold on a moment. I'm gonna plug my headset in.
Thank you so much, Steve. I think you can probably hear us now.
Yeah, hold on just a moment.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve, and it's great to talk to you. What a wonderful performance. And can you tell us a little bit about the music that you were dancing to just now?
Well, the coat belonged to a mentor of mine, a Polish modern dancer named Felix Fibich. And I danced for him several times when he taught at Kles Camp. I assisted him. So I got a lot of his idea of what performative Yiddish dance can look like. A lot of the hand movements are directly influenced by him. The graphic shapes that I make are influenced by Yiddish art of dancers and other kinds. His theory was that the Jewish line is related to the Hebrew letters. So you have these things that have these angles to them. And so I try to incorporate that in my dancing because it makes sense. I see it in the art. I see it in other dancers who I've studied, and especially from him. And I think it just gives a really nice tom, a beautiful flavor to dancing to incorporate those ideas and not simply be modern dance, broad and expansive, but to have that tension, that tension between ecstasy and longing, as I like to call it.
So you've worked with so many dancers and so many people from all over the place, and you've worked all over the world. Can you tell us any, highlights or special memories from some of your travels around the world?
Wow. Yeah, well, I for about 10 years, I was teaching Yiddish dance to mostly Polish people in Krakow at their dance festival. And I made a lot of discoveries just by doing things in a context. For instance, there's a square dance called a share. And, it takes a little getting used to, but people used to do this as a matter of course at weddings. And after a while, I had a couple of very loyal dancers who would show up. And one year, I was they and I were the model square for other people who were watching, and we were kidding around. Half of them didn't even speak English. And yet while dancing this dance, it was like being at a party. We were kidding around, we were making little physical jokes, we were just being incredibly chummy. And doing Yiddish dance, we used to bring it out to the square on Friday afternoon. And well, you know the backwards march from Kles, Canada, which was a way of greeting the Sabbath by retreating and facing the incoming sunset, the incoming Sabbath bride, and we face a bride. So we were able to do that on the cobblestones of Krakow, which I thought was pretty significant, that we were bringing back the spirit to that city where it had kind of been excised. But the festival did great work to create that. I was able to make flash mobs happen in Paris and in Weimar. Was able to create a modern dance piece based a lot. Actually, some of the coach stuff was in my modern dance piece called Gilgul Transformation, and worked with 8 dancers who I was able to audition over the internet. They were mostly European. I didn't meet them until the very first day of rehearsal or the day before. And they were wonderful. They really seized on the ideas of the movement and so forth. And the piece was pretty moving. So I like taking this style of dance, which is very traditional, which has a long history. It's not well documented. Unfortunately, I've had to like tease out my understanding from working with other dancers, looking at art, listening to the music, running the experiment in real life, and trying to bring this to a contemporary place so that people living in the 21st century feel that they can approach this dance this music in an appropriate way when they dance. And the performative stuff is to kind of go, yeah, that's something that's a model for how we can move to this music rather than hippie dancing, which are just bouncing around, which very often happens when people hear klezmer music. um Also, the dance is precedes Israeli folk dance, and it has a very different movement vocabulary and a very different sense. Uh, a lot of the dance was involved in weddings. It was a reason why dancing was tolerated, because as Western culture developed and Jewish culture developed, dance tended to get a short shrift, especially in religious contexts. But it continued anyway, and it's a mitzvah to be celebratory and to dance before the bride and groom in order to entertain them as if they're royalty. And so many stunts develop. In fact, the next dance that I'm going to do, a Fläscheltanz or a Flaschtanz or a bottle dance, is the idea of that is to entertain and do something spectacular to entertain the bride and groom.
Thank you so much, Steve. And we would love to see that dance. Can you please show us that Flaschentanz? It would be wonderful to watch.
Flaschtanz. Okay. Okay, I'll try to do something with that. I seem to have a bottle right here. Excuse me while I step away. I'm sorry about the little glitch before. I realized that my speaker had turned itself off, and you probably couldn't hear the beginning of the music. That's why I had to run back and do that. But I think we're all coordinated now. So let me get. Let me pull my headset out so you can hear the direct feed of the music, and I'll attempt a bottle dance.
Just turn it up a bit. Thank you.
So thank you so much. That was incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it's also amazing to see this kind of dance that involves balancing something on the head. I mean, we see it in many cultures, so it's very interesting to see. I mean, we have a very similar dance in India done with water pots, originally performed by women who got water in the desert from a water source that was further away. So it's just absolutely incredible to see the bottle dance. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Global Rhythms World Music and Dance Digital Concert, streamed from the living rooms of our artists and Studio Topaz in our living room. In the coming weeks, we continue to feature artists from across the world performing traditional and innovative artistic material. Please stay updated with us by following our Facebook page as well as Instagram, where you will also find the links to the wonderful artists who joined us today. We thank you for joining us in our journey today, and we hope that you will join us in the future. Thank you.